Backpacking for the first time can feel a bit overwhelming. I have definitely been there. But today I'm going to share the most important things I wish I knew before my first backpacking trip. Hey guys, I'm Chris and welcome to StepMassive. Over the last 5 years, I've completed over 120 solo backpacking trips, including over 24 trips in Yosemite National Park alone. I've backpacked in the rugged Mojave Desert, to the base of the Grand Canyon and back, and I've even trekked along glaciers in the Canadian Rocky Mountains. Along the way, I've learned a ton about what works and what doesn't. And now I'm excited to share those lessons with you to make your first trip smoother and more enjoyable. I'm also excited to announce that going forward on the channel, I'll be sharing a ton of backpacking tips and guide videos to help both beginners and intermediate backpackers conquer all aspects of the trail. This is kind of a new phase for my YouTube channel, but don't worry, I'll still be posting my backpacking trip videos too. I'm also thrilled to announce the release of my new website, StepMassive.com. It's packed with tons of resources, including in-depth backpacking guides, weekly blogs, my own personal backpacking gear lists, trip reports, and lots more. And if that's not enough, you can also join my weekly newsletter, where I'll be sharing tips, updates, and exclusive content. The link's down below. I'd love to have you join. All right, with that out of the way, let's dive into what I wish I knew before my first backpacking trip. Number one, you're probably carrying too much gear. All right, here's a fun flashback. My first trip, I had no idea what I was doing. I packed a 70-liter pack, threw in stuff like canned soup, apples, oranges, frozen burgers, multiple changes of clothing, and a lot of extra gear. That thing probably weighed over 50 pounds. And by the time I reached camp, I was wrecked, both physically and mentally. Looking back, I realized that most of that stuff are what I like to call fear weight. It was a bunch of stuff I packed because I was worried that I might need something. It's a common beginner mistake, but the fact is, when you're out backpacking, every ounce matters. To build a better pack, think like a minimalist. Focus on your big three: your backpack, your shelter, and your sleep system. This is where the weight's gonna matter most. You don't need the fanciest gear, just stuff that works well for the conditions you'll face. And be brutal when packing. Always ask yourself the following 2 questions when packing. Do I really need this? And will I actually use this? If the answer is no to either of those questions, probably leave that piece of gear at home. One mistake I made on my earlier trips was bringing just-in-case items, like an extra pair of pants, multiple flashlights, a Swiss Army knife, and I even used to carry out a small axe. Not only did these things weigh me down, but I didn't even end up using them. Trust me, after carrying all that extra weight for several miles, I quickly ditched those items on my next trip. Packing smart doesn't just make your trip easier, it also makes it safer. A heavy pack can throw off your balance, put extra strain on your knees, risking injury, and it can drain your energy pretty darn fast. Backpacking should ultimately be about enjoying your experience, not suffering through the trail while a crushing load is killing your shoulders. So, before your first trip, take some time to weigh your gear. Literally. Get a digital kitchen scale and weigh every item that you're planning to carry. You'll start to get a feel for what items are taking the most weight and what things you might be able to cut. For example, when I first started, I used a heavy-duty High Sierra 0-degree mummy bag, and I later switched to a 20-degree ultralight top quilt, which instantly saved me a couple pounds. And believe me, weight savings like that can make a big difference over a long trip. However, you don't need to go ultralight at the expense of comfort. You can also focus on bringing multi-use gear. For example, a foam sleeping pad can double as a sit pad, and a bandana can be a towel, a sunshade, a pot holder, and even an extra layer of warmth on your face at night. Learning to cut down the number of items you bring and focus on the essentials is your key to a comfortable trip. Number 2, pick an easy route for your first trip. My first solo trip was kind of a disaster. I chose a trail with pretty intense elevation gain. I underestimated my start time, and by the time I got to camp, it was already dark. I got super stressed out because I had to pitch my tent in the dark and I hadn't even eaten yet, so I was starving. Ultimately, because I got to camp too late, I missed out on the chance to just hang around the campsite, relax, and watch the sunset. So for your first trip, keep it easy. Aim for a single overnighter on a trail that's well marked, has low mileage, and minimal elevation gain. Think of it as a practice run to gain confidence. If you can find a place with established campsites, that's ideal. They're usually near water sources, easier to get to, and you know where you're camping, so you don't have to spend time searching for a good spot. And here's something I definitely recommend. Leave yourself enough time to get to camp 2 to 3 hours before sunset. This will give you enough time to set up your tent, figure out your gear, eat your food, cook your dinner, and get settled before things get dark. And by the way, make sure you know what time sunset is. That is a crucial piece of data to know when you're on a backpacking trip, how much time you have until it's going to get dark. And it's also a good idea to familiarize yourself with the trail conditions ahead of time. Check out recent trail reports, look at online maps, and identify any potential obstacles such as river crossings, really steep incline, down trees, low water sources, whatever it is, be prepared. Also, if you can, ask rangers or other backpackers about the current conditions. I learned this the hard way on a trip when I got to a water source I was depending on for my next refill and the spring was bone dry. I ended up having to walk 2 extra hours to the next water source. So staying up to date on current conditions is critical, especially when you're hiking someplace for the first time. And by the way, starting with a shorter trip doesn't at all make you less of a backpacker. It's all about building a foundation. Once you've nailed the basics a few times, you'll then be ready for bigger and more challenging adventures. All right, number 3, test your gear before you go. So here's a humbling moment. My first time I went backpacking and set up my tent for the first time, I had no idea how to use my guy lines. I didn't know how to get them tight. I didn't know what kind of knots to use. I had no idea. My tent ended up flapping in the wind all night and I had to keep getting out of my sleeping bag, out of my tent to try and fix the guy lines. I didn't know what I was doing. I was cold, I was frustrated, and I didn't get a lot of sleep. It turns out the trail isn't the place to figure out how your gear works. So before your trip, spend some time practicing. Set up your tent in your backyard or local park. Fire up your stove and boil a few cups of water. Run your water filter through a couple practice runs to make sure it's working and you know how to use it. So my first time using a filter on the trail, I used a Sawyer Squeeze here. And what I didn't realize is the bag that it comes with is pretty much impossible to fill up in standing water. I thought I could just dip this thing down into like a lake and it would just like fill itself with water. But because the opening is so small and because of like physics, I guess, water does not just go in if you put it underwater. You usually need like a running water source to like fill it up by running the water that way. So I was like standing around this lake like, how am I gonna fill this thing up with water? I had no idea what I was gonna do. I ended up having to ask a fellow backpacker who stopped by like how to use my own filter. And he showed me that typically you wanna get a scoop and scoop the water from the lake and then pour it into your container. So I ended up using another little Sawyer bag and I cut the top off it. And now I use this as my scoop when I go on any trip. I'll scoop the water out of a standing water source, pour it into the bag, and then I can filter it. So consider filling up a bathtub or a sink or something with water and practice using your filter in standing water. Make sure you actually know how to use it. And don't just practice with your gear in perfect conditions either. Try pitching your tent out in the rain or in the wind or maybe on some uneven surface. The more familiar you get with your gear, the more comfortable you'll feel and the less likely you are to panic if something goes wrong out there. And trust me, there's always something that's gonna go wrong on a trip. So even something as simple as packing your backpack in a way that makes sense. Stuff that you'll need quickly on top, things that you don't need until camp on the bottom can save you a ton of time and stress. All right, number 4. Water management is crucial. So water management is one of the most important and sometimes overlooked aspects of backpacking. Like I mentioned earlier, on one of my trips, I underestimated the water sources. I didn't check conditions ahead of time and I ended up running out of water. My water source was dry and I ended up having to do an extra 2-hour trip to get my water. A good rule of thumb, always carry more water than you need. And make sure you plan your route around your water sources. Apps like Gaia GPS or AllTrails often include current trip reports so that you can read what the current water sources are like. So check out those sources before you go on a trip to get the latest intel. And in addition to knowing how your water filter works, make sure you test it a day or two before your trip. Even the best water filters can clog if they are sitting around your house for months or even weeks without being used. And on that note, always carry a backup form of water purification. I personally like to bring Aquamira tablets. They're small, light, relatively inexpensive, and easy to use. The fact is, water filters can fail during a trip, and having a plan B can save you from a bad situation. And the 5th and final thing I wish I knew before my first backpacking trip was how much backpacking can be a mental game. All right, backpacking is not just a physical challenge, it is definitely a mental one as well. I'll never forget the first night I spent backpacking by myself on a solo trip. I got freaked out. I was in my tent, it was late at night, and I swear I heard a mountain lion walking around my tent. I was petrified. I didn't move a muscle, I was frozen in my sleeping bag, terrified, not making a sound. I laid there still for like 30 minutes. I finally got the courage to put on my headlamp, peek outside, and you know what I saw? It was a squirrel. It was literally a squirrel. So the wilderness can definitely bring out your fears, but it can also teach you how to face them. When things go wrong on a trip, and they will, stay calm, assess the situation, and be adaptive. Every challenge you face in the wilderness can be an opportunity to grow and a chance to use the lesson you've learned on your next trip. Backpacking will definitely push you out of your comfort zone, but that's what makes it exciting. However, for those moments when things aren't going your way, sometimes it can help to bring out a little comfort item on your trip to help boost your spirits. Whether it's a favorite book, a snack, a journal, or a playlist that you pop into your headphones. Okay, I kid you not, even to this day, after over 100 solo backpacking trips, I still bring a couple downloaded episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants on my phone, just in case I get scared while out in the middle of nowhere, late at night, way out in the remote wilderness. I can watch a few episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants and it'll boost my spirits. So bringing a little comfort item can definitely help when things get rough out there. So alright guys, those are the lessons that I wish I knew before my first backpacking trip. They might seem a little simple, maybe you already know some of them, but they can make a huge difference in how much you enjoy the trail. So if you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more tips, guides, and videos of my backpacking trips. And by the way, I also just posted a blog entry with more details on this exact topic we've been talking about on my website, StepMassive.com. So go check it out. And if you've ever made your own rookie mistake or learned a valuable lesson while on a trip, share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you out there.